Okay, this may sound like a really silly question, but what happens when you run low or run out of bread? No, I don't mean money. That's its own show. Although it's kind of related. But what happens when you run out of bread? The kind of bread you devour. Back in a minute. Let's talk about it. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hi, this is Jan. Welcome to another episode on this channel, the Save Money and More with Jan channel. We're going to talk today about what happens when you run out or run low on edible bread. Now, this may sound like a trivial question. Well, most people would respond, well, I just go out and get another loaf of bread. Okay, well, that's wonderful. You replace it with bread. Okay. But there are some people that, like, they run out of bread and they have a couple of days till payday, and yeah, and it's still nice to have bread, right? Am I right or am I right? All right, take a breath, take a breath. This is where planning ahead comes in handy. Talking about, especially for the folks that are, low income folks, uh, where a loaf of bread is like an amazing thing to have. Uh, I mean, I have watched some videos where there are folks that do extreme shopping. Extreme shopping to keep their budget, their grocery budget, really, really down, their food budget. And one of the key things I always seem to see is a pattern of making sure that there's bread, but not only bread. I'm noticing on those extreme type of shows, always making sure there's some, sort of starch. This is where the rice comes in handy. Yeah, 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 yeah. This is where the pastas come in handy. Yep, 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 yep. I mean, these are just examples. Crackers comes in handy. Yep, yep, yep. And products that, let's say, like pancake mix or biscuit mix or rolls in the freezer. Little bit of planning ahead comes in handy. There also may be days, well, you run low or run out of bread and the weather is really, really bad out. It's just, I mean, you have the money to get, more bread. It's just that it's really tough to get on the road. In fact, maybe dangerous. And you don't want to get into an accident just to get some bread. This is where planning ahead comes in handy. I know it seems like we're always planning ahead, but you want to know something? Isn't it better to be safe than sorry? Isn't it better to think this is why it's important? And I highly recommend it. I call myself a bean counter. Well, what do you mean by that, Jan? What I do is I literally count the days till my next shopping haul because I plan ahead. For example, if I go grocery shopping for 2 weeks, usually it's for a 2 week haul at minimum, especially once the weather starts turning, brutal. And up here in the Northeast, sometimes the weather could be really, really tough, really, really cold. So just saying, just saying. So, okay, so I'll look ahead for the 2 weeks and then I'll count. I know, again, bean counter. I'll count, well, how many loaves of bread do you think you're going to need in the next 2 weeks? All right. In my experience, two loaves of sliced bread, that's just a sliced variety. Two loaves of sliced bread will do. But there's another thing. There are bread alternatives for those that forget. If you happen to have, like, instead of sliced bread, but you have a package of hot dog rolls in the freezer, which, by the way, I highly recommend those. They keep very, very well, and you could make little sandwiches with that or hamburger rolls. So don't forget that you might be having them hiding in the freezer, and that could be your bread substitute or some other. It is actually bread, but it's just a different form, different shape of bread. You see where I'm going with that? Keep those things around. Keep those things that do not take up much freezer space, like a package of Frankfurter or hamburger rolls. Literally, do not take up much, as I call it, real estate space in the freezer. Keep those things in mind. And also, another great suggestion: crackers. A simple cracker doesn't have to be the fancy, delicious, buttery type of I only mainly use those around the holidays. They're so good that I just designate them for the holidays. But the everyday kind of cracker, for example, that you could get at a much less expensive price, okay? You get the store brand at a much less expensive price. So keep things, of course, we should always keep things like rice around. You don't have to go for the gold and get the dehydrated rice all the time. Learn how to make a fresh rice. For song. I mean, think about it. 1 cup of rice, dried rice, uncooked, yields like double the amount. It yields double the amount. I am like so serious. I think it yields about 2.5 cooked. I'm not positive, but it's definitely doubled. And that's sort of like a bread swap out, a bread substitute. Okay. Because listen, let's face it, we're used to it. Another thing we could also do is, rely on, having, pancakes or something, or biscuits, those biscuits that you could easily make. You buy those biscuit mixes, you could get the frozen ones. There are so many bread swap out, and of course, pasta bread substitutes out there that you'll be okay. To tide you over a couple of days type thing. But the thing is, as always, a little bit of planning in the beginning time when you get your grocery haul. That's why it's really important to sit down before you leave for the store. Look at your inventory. Like, look around. When I say inventory, I'm not just referring to, your little cute little shelving, stockpiling the long term. Not only referring to that, I'm talking about your current active pantry inventory. So before you step foot to the grocery store or step on your computer to type in your, groceries, really examine what you have. Are you running low on bread? Some people feel really horrible when they run out of bread. I'm not even kidding you, because, the inability to make sandwiches. And of course, here's another great idea. We could learn how to make our own simple breads. Also, don't forget the power of those little boxes of those mixes. Like if you want to make, a quick cornbread type thing, things of that nature. I understand. I know. Hopefully, when things start getting a little more regulated and a little better, these are the plans. For example, probably our grandparents did. They always had a backup plan. That I always know. One thing about the old timers were really, really great for having a plan B for their plan A. So if having bread around is important to you, and I really mean it, if having that around is important to you, always think and consider of a backup plan. Another thing before I forget. Many times people are very wasteful of their bread slices that they use. Okay. Some people are just like they give kids like huge sandwiches. Start small, especially when children are really little. Give them a smaller sandwich. They're always welcome to go for a second one. Give them half a sandwich. Okay. You see where I'm going with this? If they want more, gladly give it. But don't make this huge sandwich. In my opinion, I wouldn't make a huge sandwich for a little kid, and then they leave half of it, or it's drops on the floor, some crazy thing like that. I'm just saying there are ways and there are ways, and we have to just look ahead. As anything else, a little planning ahead always pays off. Thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate everybody's time. I didn't mention, but if you could kindly click the like button, that would really help out the channel. Let's not forget what this lady does. Have an amazing, fantastic day.